We try to memorize as many words as we can because we think it will help us become fluent. We watch videos like 100 common words in English or 100 common idioms in English. We write them down, we make sure we memorize all of them. But when the speaking time comes, we get stuck. We don't remember those words. This happens because of a very common mistake that people make when learning vocabulary. Today we're gonna make sure you don't make the same mistake and you learn how to improve your vocabulary properly. But first, hey, my name is Asim Khan. I have been learning English for more than 3 years now. On this channel, I teach you how to speak English fluently and confidently. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. So the mistake people make when learning vocabulary is that people try to memorize vocabulary. They try to memorize words, but it doesn't work. We need to acquire vocabulary. We need to acquire words. We need to learn vocabulary like English native speakers do. Have you ever thought about you've never actually memorized words in your native language? You've just learned them naturally and automatically from your environment. And this idea of memorizing words from a list does not work. Why? Because of a few reasons. First, you memorize words out of context. I've met a lot of people who learned English just by watching movies in English, by watching a lot of movies, Hollywood movies and Spider-Man movies and all of these movies. They learned a lot of English words and phrases because movies are actually stories and stories have context. When you're learning something and you relate it to a story, you remember it better. There's a psychological fact. We as humans, we learn and remember things better when we relate that thing to a story. But when you're memorizing it from a list, you don't remember it because it's out of context. The second reason is it's very boring and difficult. People say you have to know 3,000 words if you want to speak English fluently. You cannot possibly memorize 3,000 words from a list. It's so boring and it's so difficult. And the third reason is that if you try to memorize words from a list, you forget them. It's not sustainable. Maybe you learn 10 words today, 20 words tomorrow, 30 words the next day. But a week later, you're gonna forget all of them. You cannot possibly memorize words and remember them forever. And I told you the reason. That's because you're memorizing them out of context. You're memorizing them in alphabetical order. It is not gonna work. You have to learn vocabulary from stories, from movies, from something that's interesting and not boring. So the message I'm trying to convey is, don't try to memorize vocabulary. People find these lists on Google, they download it and then they memorize 5 words from it every single day or 10 words every single day. And by the time they finish the list, they realize that they've already forgotten the words on top, the first few words. So as I said, it's not gonna work. So what's the solution? How do you improve your vocabulary then? How do you learn and remember new words? For the past 3 years, I have been using a step-by-step method for learning and improving my vocabulary. And I'm still using it. I'm still learning new words and new phrases and idioms every single day. The first step is you have to consume a lot in English. As I said earlier, we learn our native languages by being in a place where people speak that language. How do you do it? You read a lot and you listen a lot. Once you read a lot and you listen a lot, you will see or hear words. As I said, you will hear words that you don't know. You will see words that you don't know. And as I said, once you consume a lot, you will start getting familiar with the language. You will start getting familiar with words. You will start to recognize different words even though you don't know their meanings. And that brings us to the next step, which is to write those words down. People think, I've heard this word and it's in my memory and I'll remember it. No, you won't. Don't rely on your memory too much. Write words down. So if you hear or see a new word that you don't know, immediately write it down somewhere. You can write it down on a sticky note or on a flashcard or in a small notebook. I don't care what it is. Just write the words that you don't know somewhere. Also, don't just write the word down. Write its definition. Of course, when you hear or see a word for the first time, through listening and reading, you're not gonna know their meanings. So the first thing you have to do is learn their meanings. You can do that in a dictionary. I recommend English to English dictionary. Some people use English to their native language dictionary, but it's not a good way. Like, translation in general is not good for you. You have to use English to English dictionary. And the best dictionary I've ever used in my life is Cambridge Dictionary. Have a small notebook with yourself. On the top, like on top of the page, write the word down that you want to learn. And below that, write its definition. The third step you're gonna take is that you're going to use the words that you learn. A lot of people make this mistake. They learn vocabulary from a newspaper or from somewhere else, but they don't really use that vocabulary. They don't really use the words they learn, and that's why they forget them. So don't make this mistake. If you don't use the words you learn, remember, you're gonna lose them. If you don't use them, you're gonna lose them. Let's say you want to learn the word extinguish. How are you going to apply this method? The first step is to read and listen a lot. So when you're reading or when you're listening, you might come across extinguish. You might see it in different contexts, in different books, or you might hear it in different YouTube videos, in different podcasts, for example. The second step you're going to do is that you're going to write this word immediately down with you somewhere. So you're going to write the word extinguish in a notebook or something. And also you're going to learn its definition. You're going to find its definition on Google, Cambridge Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, any of the one that you like to use. And the third step is that you're going to try to use this word as much as you can in your conversations. So when you're talking with yourself or with your friends or with someone else in English, just try to use this word in different situations. And in my opinion, we need to use a word at least 5 to 10 times to remember it forever. So try using it in different situations. And then the fourth step is to review the words you learn. Remember, repetition is the mother of learning. So what I want you to do is that go to page 1 and try to review, like look at the definition, look at the word you wrote, and then look at its definition. And then page 2, page 3, page 4, review all of those words that you have learned and that you've written in your notebook. I recommend doing this review and repetition session at least once a week. And also when you review and repeat your words a lot, you will not have this problem of getting stuck while speaking. You will speak English fluently and confidently. So just trust your brain that gradually over time, as you're listening, as you're consuming more and more English, your brain will start to acquire more and more vocabulary. Just trust yourself, trust your brain, trust the process. If you want to know how to learn English grammar without memorizing the rules, then watch this video in which I talk about how you can do it step by step. Okay, lots of love. Bye for now. See you in the next lesson.